Hey, hey guys, I am super excited to welcome you guys back to our ingredient edit. This week we're talking all things green tea related, EGCG, New Skin's supplement, tea green, and we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive. There's lots of goodies with this, lots of science, lots of research. Um, it actually is one of the most researched plant compounds, period. So people typically think like collagen, creatine. That's another great one that has decades and decades of research. Turmeric, but EGCG is one of the most researched plant compounds, bar none. So if you haven't heard about EGCG before, I'm going to break it down. Most people have not heard of it before, so this might be your first time. EGCG stands for epigallocatechin gallate. It's the one time you're going to hear me say that because I'm proud that I nailed it on the first try. And it's one of the primary catechins found in green tea. So, in fact, when scientists study green tea, most likely they're studying EGCG, that compound. So, before we go any further, I'm going to give you guys some definitions because there's a couple words I'm going to say multiple times, and that's going to be polyphenols and catechins. So, if you've ever looked at a green tea supplement before, those are what they list out because those are the most important active ingredients in green tea. So, we're going to start with polyphenols. So, polyphenols are naturally occurring plant compounds that help protect plants from stress, damage, UV light, pests, and environmental stressors. So, it's basically their shield. Think of them as part of like the plant's defense system. What's really interesting about polyphenols is when we eat plants that are rich in those compounds, our bodies typically benefit from many of those same protective properties that the plants experience from those same compounds. They're found in things like berries, olive oil, dark chocolate, coffee, grapes, wine, and green tea. So you probably hear a lot of people say a glass of red wine every day is really good for you. They're talking about the polyphenols, and the same thing with dark chocolate. Oh, Becca's got her red wine. Awesome. Um, so, in fact, many of the foods associated with healthy aging tend to be rich in polyphenols. So now, the way you want to think about it, the larger family of polyphenols, there's going to be smaller groups within that. So, one of those small groups is called catechins. So you want to think of it like polyphenols are like the tree, the family tree. Catechins are one branch on the tree, and then within the catechin branch, there's a leaf, EGCG. So that's kind of like how it's broken down, the broader category, all the way down to the nitty gritty. Um, uh, when you hear when we're talking about tea green, we're saying it's standardized to 97% polyphenols and 65% catechins. What that really means is the extract has been concentrated, so you're getting a very high amount of the plant compounds, and these are the compounds that the researchers are most interested in. It's not just green tea in a capsule form. It's the most researched parts of the green tea itself. So, and that matters because green tea happens to be one of the richest natural sources of catechins. What's exciting, like I said, is after decades of research, there's thousands of papers that are published. Scientists are still looking and finding new discoveries with EGCG. So we're going to talk about why. One of the strongest areas of research is cardiovascular and metabolic health. So in 2023, there was a systematic review and meta-analysis. What that means is that they look at multiple studies and they roll them all in together to get the all the details. Researchers found green tea supplementation was associated with, ready for this? A reduction in LDL cholesterol by about 6 milligrams per deciliter, a reduction in total cholesterol of about 8 milligrams per deciliter, a reduction in fasting blood sugar, and a reduction in HbA1c, which is a really good marker for long-term blood sugar control. Now, when I say those numbers, you might be like, oh, those are kind of tiny, Larry. Like, what's up with that? Your doctor might not throw a party over a 5 milligram per deciliter drop in your LDL cholesterol, but guys, your arteries might. And long-term use, those things compound over time. And in my opinion, that's what makes it truly impressive. Healthy aging isn't about giant overnight changes. It's about those small, tiny improvements, those important markers that change, and they add up over months and years. So, and that's exactly why researchers continue to see benefits with EGCG and green tea catechins. Um, then we get to another area. So this has been generating a lot of excitement. This is what my nerdy little brain got excited about is brain health. So researchers have been studying EGCG because it appears to influence pathways involved in neuroplasticity. So what does that mean? Neuroplasticity is your brain's ability to adapt, learn, create new connections, and maintain your health as you age. This is the part where, like I said, my inner geek was like, okay, that's so cool. That's a big deal. Your brain health is so important. And I'm going to go through another study for you guys. So, the design of one cognitive study is what really made me perk up and be like, okay, hold on, what's going on here? This wasn't just someone drinking green tea and saying, I feel better. It was a double-blind, randomized, placebo-controlled study using 336 milligrams of decaffeinated green tea catechins, EGCG. The participants were adults between 50 and 69 who reported some cognitive decline, and researchers used a computerized cognitive testing system to measure changes. So, like I said, this isn't, I feel like I'm getting results. This is, we can measure this with computer data. After a single dose, one dose, the catechin group had fewer incorrect responses on an attention task. After 12 weeks of daily intake, they had faster response time on a two-back test, which is a working memory test. So, a two-back test is like 203-706-9757. That's my cell phone number. Tell me that in 5 minutes. That is that ability to recall something from the recent past. Um, and it's the ability to follow multi-step instructions without having to go back and reread step one. That's basically where it plays into its role. So again, we're not saying EGCG is like the cure-all for brain health, but it's interesting to see where it's going. Who knows what the future will find, whether it's those big brain health issues like dementia and Alzheimer's and things like that. But it's definitely somewhere to be paying attention to. Um, there's also research looking at green tea consumption and biological markers connected to brain aging, oxidative stress, and neurodegeneration. So the breaking down of the neurons in your brain. So when we talk about brain health, we're not just talking about feeling focused at the end of the day. Researchers are looking at cognition, inflammation, oxidative stress, and the biology of how the brain ages itself in combination with EGCG supplementation. And like I said, that probably is one of the most exciting things, in my opinion. But we'll talk about the benefit that most people look into green tea for, and that's weight management and metabolic health. So, and at the end of the day, this is kind of where I think the science is even more impactful than the marketing. Because I'm sure you guys have seen supplements being marketed all over the place. You see, you're going to lose 20 pounds in a month or 30 pounds in 30 days. And of course, that sounds enticing. And who wouldn't when you're trying to get more fit, increase your wellness, and lose weight? Um, but I'm going to tell you guys what the research shows. So, one meta-analysis found that green tea catechins were associated with an average weight reduction of about 1.3 kilograms over 30 days. For us Americans, that's about 3 pounds in 30 days. What makes this so interesting to me is it might not seem life-changing in the moment, but guess what? They changed not a single thing with their lifestyle other than supplementing with the EGCG. So they're not changing their diet. They're not doing more movement. They're not starting to work out. They're not cutting out fast food. This was just by supplementing with EGCG. They lost an average of 3 pounds over 30 days. To me, that's the win. We're talking about a natural compound creating measurable changes in the body with improvements of metabolism without extreme interventions. So it's not a miracle. It really is physiology. Researchers believe green tea catechins may support fat oxidation, so breaking it down, energy expenditure, and metabolic efficiency. Again, like I said, it's not magic, but it truly does help your bodily systems. Um, in my opinion, if a supplement says you're going to lose 30 pounds in 30 days, that's when I'm like, okay, nope, I'm good. I'm going to run because that isn't what you really want. You want sustainable loss over time that's healthy. Um, Okay, ready for the next review? This one's cool. A 2024 systematic review and meta-analysis looked at 59 randomized controlled trials. So 59 different trials, almost 4,000 participants. So this wasn't just a tiny study. It's a lot of data. So researchers found that green tea extracts significantly reduce body mass, BMI, body fat percentage, and MDA. So MDA stands for melandal. Oh, here we go. We're gonna try this one, guys. Um, Melandaldehyde. Woo! It's all the L's and the U's. And it's commonly used as a marker of oxidative stress. So, more specifically, it can reflect lipid peroxidation, which is basically oxidative damage to fats in the body, breaking it down. So, when MDA goes down, that suggests a lower signal of oxidative stress. They also found green tea increased total antioxidant capacity and adenopectin. So, adenopectin is a hormone released by fat cells that helps support insulin sensitivity and metabolic health. So when I say EGCG is not just weight management, this is what I mean. It covers so many different systems. The conversation is really about metabolism, oxidative stress, and how well the body handles energy over time. And then there's a healthy aging conversation. So when you step back and look at all the research together, a pattern really does start to emerge, you guys. We see cardiovascular health, blood sugar regulation, oxidative stress, inflammation health, cognitive function benefits, metabolic changes. And these are some of the biggest factors researchers associate with how well we age. Um, EGCG seems to show up in every one of these conversations. So now the one question I get all the time is, well, Lair, can I just drink the green tea? Like I like tea, I can do iced green tea. What does that look like? And you totally can. And I totally support that. Green tea is great for you. Like I said, high in polyphenols, high in antioxidants. But the challenge is that many of the studies that I'm talking about, guys, use a concentrated amount of catechins and EGCG that would require so many cups of tea every day. You'd be going to the bathroom 24/7 and the caffeine shakes, all the things, heart racing. You just couldn't drink enough green tea to hit those numbers. Um, and that's why we use standardized extracts. So we pull out the compounds we want, we get the amount of those compounds that we need based on the science, and that's what you're supplementing with. Like I said, not just green tea powder in a capsule, it truly is the active compounds that make a difference. Um, and it's really about understanding the difference between drinking green tea casually and using that standardized extract to consistently get the results that you're really shooting for. And tying all back together, so Tea Green 97, we said that it's 97% polyphenols, 65% catechins, and it provides more than 95 milligrams of EGCG per pill. Huge difference. That means two pills, two capsules is about 190 milligrams of EGCG, and four is about 380. And guess what? All the studies that I researched fell somewhere between those two numbers. So depending whether you take the two or the four, you're definitely the science is going to back that dosage, which is what really matters. Um, the active dose in your body is what's important. So that's why I personally like looking at standardized amounts because I know that I'm getting what the science says my body needs to get those results. So now that I've given you guys all the nerdy science and all that stuff, I'm super excited to pass it on to my friend Dawn, who's going to share why she decided to incorporate tea green into her daily routine.
So I always love listening to these because I learn that I'm not crazy, that the things I'm experiencing, do you know what I mean, have actually science behind it, not just feelings. So I take two in the morning, two at night, the standardized on the bottle. I've been doing it for probably almost a year, a full year, and there's been a lot of medical things in my life that I've had to have follow-ups for. I had cancer last year, and one of the first things that Mayo Hospital said is, what have you been doing different in your health? Because my blood panel absolutely showed that there was a night and day difference. And I just had my 1 year follow-up and it still is showing. And I mean, again, everyone's a science experiment of one. We don't want to make any false claims here. My reality is, compared to my 20s, my blood panel is coming back pristine. Since then, I'm 54. And that's not just a feeling, that's a fact. You know what I mean? So a third party entity is saying, hey, what Larry's talking about, what we're talking about here, when we share any of our products, the science really does back it up. And so it, for me, why it was important was several factors. I'm diabetic. All four of my grandparents and all two of my parents were overachievers. I got diabetes from everywhere. And so I have been a diabetic for about 8 years. And same thing, my A1C, I don't care what medication I was on, how often I was taking insulin bumps, whatever, pick a thing. I was still, I mean, could I have stayed away from cake? Sure. There's a piece of that I can own. But the reality was, even when I was eating according to, planned carbs, all the stuff, I would still run for, you talked about A1C. My A1C would run anywhere from 12 to 14 all the time. And now I am down between 6 and 7.5. I mean, they are thrilled with that. I'm off of almost all my diabetic medication and blood pressure medication, all that. So that was a big part of me. And I am seeing the results in my A1C. I'm not taking as much. And it used to be if I missed a dose, I take an insulin nightly, usually. If I missed a dose, I would feel tired or like my chest would be like kind of pounding. You have like kind of like almost an anxiety reaction to it. Like you could tell that you're running either low or high on sugars. And I don't have that anymore, to the point that I'm actually going in and talking to my doctor about rerunning my numbers and seeing if I can bump back some of the only medication I'm still on. So when you feel better, you're going to move better. Everything is tied together. So, because I'm not tired all the time, because I'm not running high blood sugars, I'm exercising more. Exercising more means my body's running better. Have I lost weight? 1,000%. But the inflammation is night and day difference. I shared a picture recently, 7 months apart, 5 months into using New Skin and Tea Green, and I look like a different human being, even though there was only 10 pounds difference. The inflammation, all of that, that you know what I mean, that your body is circulating and getting rid of, that it wasn't retaining anymore, has been a factor. The other part that I was really excited about that you talked about was, again, the cognitive part of it and the brain health. I spoke when we talked about mindful. I know it's in the recording if you want to go back to the library that Larry has. But same thing, my mom died of something called normal pressure hydrocephalus at 66 years old. Her brain had atrophied. As you age, your brain ages also. And even though she was 66, her autopsy showed that she had a brain of somebody 86. So that is a massive fear that I have. Her brother, my uncle, had Parkinson's, and they actually now think he had normal pressure hydrocephalus. So it's all around the same thing of dementia, Alzheimer's. They're all kind of, in the same circle of things. And so brain health is a massive part of it. Again, as a woman, is it menopause? Is it old age? Is it that stress of the kids and grandkids and all the things? You never know what, maybe you can blame something on. But my recall is a lot faster now than it has been for probably 4 or 5 years. There's no more throwing a box of cake mix away and thinking there's just water, oil, and eggs, and then having to get it back out and go, okay, is it, 2 eggs or one and a half an egg white or something? I just don't have that part anymore. It's not a miracle. There's still stress, there's all those things, but there is a massive difference. And when you can notice a difference on top of other people in your life saying, hey, there's a discrepancy between now and before, and what are you doing different? When your friends and your family and your neighbors say, you look different, what's happening? And when I'm having conversations with people, again, like right there, that little blip, that like, what was I going to say? That recovery is much faster now than it ever has been. Tea green for me is a non-negotiable. Of all the things that I take, New Biome would be another, but tea green is never coming off my. In fact, I have a hoard of it because I'm so afraid that they're going to get rid of it for some reason, or maybe not have access to it. And I was never a person that likes tea, so green tea was never on my radar anyway. But if I can take a capsule and get all the benefit plus, and it's one of those things too, even if you could get enough out of a berry or a fruit, the calories behind it, the sugars behind it, that kind of thing, it's not duplicable for most people to have. And so if they can have it and to get the benefit out of it without all the negatives of whatever, it would be, like you said, going to the bathroom 24/7. No, thank you.
Agreed, agreed. Love it. Thank you for sharing.
Absolutely.
Um, I gotta one quick side note. Green tea actually was what kind of started my whole passion of researching ingredients and herbs and different supplements. My grandma swore by green tea. She had 3 cups a day, like come hell or high water, she got that green tea in. And it kind of what struck my passion with my grandma looking into supplementation. And actually, today would have been her birthday. So it's kind of funny. I just looked up and I was like, oh, yeah, so happy birthday, grandma. Um, so before we wrap everything up, I want to leave you guys with one final thought. So most supplements come and go. You guys have seen things that are trendy, that are popular, they disappear, and then nobody talks about them ever again. EGCG has survived literally decades of scientific scrutiny, thousands of papers, human clinical trials, analyses, and researchers are still finding new ways that it impacts our body. To me, personally, that's one of the strongest signals that an ingredient is worth paying attention to. It's not trendy, it hasn't gone away, and we're still finding out new things. Um, it keeps earning another look from science at that point. And that's exactly the kind of ingredient that I love to highlight on the ingredient edit. So with our Tea Green 97, it's definitely something that you want to take some time, look into. Um, as always, supplements are not here to replace your foundation. So like Dawn said, you want to still be eating well, getting your movement in, sleeping. Consistency matters. But when you find an ingredient that has this much science and research behind it, and you can easily fit it into your daily routine in a simple, consistent way, like Dawn said, she does 2 in the morning and 2 at night, like easy peasy. That really is worth a look, in my opinion. So, someone share this episode with you. Make sure you reach out to them, ask them whether it might make sense to add it into your routine. If I'm the one that invited you, you guys know, reach out to me, and I'm definitely here to help you create the routine that works best for you. And I want to thank you guys for joining us for our current episode of the Ingredient Edit, and we'll see you guys next week. And thanks again, Don, for sharing, and ladies for hopping on. We'll see you guys soon. Bye, guys.